Perfect. We're live. We're good. We're good. Okay. Welcome, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Auburn City Council meeting for January 22nd, 2024. Madam Mayor, can you, or Madam Clerk, can you please have the roll? I just advanced you.
Thank you. Councilmember Dowden Calvillo. Present. Amara.
Present.
Holmes.
Here.
Sierra Sammons.
Present.
And Mayor Vidal Harris.
Here. All right. Councilwoman Sierra Sammons, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Please stand. Salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. On the agenda, it has that we are going to be doing a proclamation, but that proclamation has been canceled for this evening. So we're going to go straight into the adoption of the agenda. This is the time set aside for the council members and the public to ask for removal, postponement, or change of the list of sequenced items on the agenda. The agenda will be approved by consensus of the council. Unless I hear any objections, I will consider the agenda approved.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I know that we have our support animal here in the audience today. Is there any way that we can maybe bring that up right away so that he doesn't have to stay in the chambers? Maybe
Sure.
before consent, if that would be all right, if
Is
we had
that
that
okay for us to do?
presentation?
Okay, without any objection, then we're gonna move the support, emotional support animal item up above the consent calendar.
Yes, that's item number 6.
Item number 6, correct. Okay, are there any other changes or amendments? Okay, great. All right, then moving on to the item number 6, the police department's emotional support canine program.
He's so cute.
Oh.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, Brian Morrison, Lieutenant with the Auburn Police Department. We just wanted to give you an update, kind of a feel-good story and in addition to our wellness program. As many of you know, we've prioritized wellness with the Auburn Police Department, and Bolo here adds just another component to our wellness program. This has been kind of a short development in the wellness program where it just kind of fell into place. And in doing so, we did some research and found that there are many different, primarily actually 2 different avenues as far as a wellness dog with the support canine. The first one is a therapy dog, and that therapy dog, if you could, oh, this is on me.
Like parenting.
Sure.
There we go.
Anyhow, a couple different avenues to go on when you're talking about bringing a canine into a police department. And for that matter, any sort of emergency medical or first responder type setting. The first being the therapy canine. Therapy canine, as we started doing our research, was primarily a little bit more regimented of a program. The people who actually put these types of programs together, they want to make sure that the dog is assigned a primary and secondary handler, and the canine then primarily lives with the handler and is transported to and from work. Great model, seems to work in the surrounding agencies. However, as we looked at it, it really didn't fit our model. And our model is that we want to touch, from a wellness perspective, every member of the Auburn Police Department. And in doing so, if we stuck with the therapy model or the therapy canine, he'd go home and graveyard and weekend staff members, they just wouldn't have the benefits of having Bolo around. So we looked at a facility / emotional support canine, and allows the PD to choose our canine. It allows us to kind of do our research, find a breed that co-mingled and coexists with our needs. And in doing so, it provided a little more flexibility. It's assigned to trainers, not primarily handlers. And then the canine then lives at the police department 24 hours, and everybody has that ability to interact with the dog and have the benefits of that emotional support. On the side. There we go. And with that, the one thing I already mentioned, that the big component that we sought in terms of adopting this program was the promotion of employee wellness. You'll see shortly that there's several studies out there that indicate the benefits of having an emotional support dog, or just a dog in general, in and around those first responders. The other piece to that is Bolo, I have no doubt, and has already been a topic of conversation when we bring him into the public. So from that standpoint, he enhances our relationships with our community. By taking him and introducing him to the community, just having him around, it naturally draws people or asks people if they can pet him, bring him closer, and accept that relationship. And then it actually forms a bond between, you know, whoever is primarily training or handling with those community members. And then eventually, at some point, a goal would be to have him support children and or victims that have been exposed to some sort of traumatic event. So as they're giving, you know, these statements that are drawing back and actually striking a nerve more often than not, to hopefully bring them into a calmer, more relaxed state of mind, so that they can recollect the incident with a little bit of ease and maybe just something there comforting them. And again, I talked about some of the various studies that support the need or the desire to have canines in a first responder environment. And quite simply, the studies, they go back quite a ways, even outside of first responder work, to where there's been various therapists, various sociologists, psychologists that have essentially deemed that having canines around and in that therapeutic setting puts their mind at ease and allows them to talk more freely while going through and having the various treatment that they're going through. As you can see up there, quite simply, the mere canine or a cat can help build self-esteem, improve mood, lower blood pressure, and help support life satisfaction. And you get down to the very last one down there. And law enforcement emotional support dog in every department across the nation could not only have a significant impact on children and survivors of abuse and traumatic events. It lists the various events there, obviously, and then it could have a permanent effect on the health and well-being of police officers, staff, communications personnel as well. So that kind of a background as far as why we went down this avenue of the emotional support canine. And again, it boils down to ensuring that our staff is emotionally healthy and supported by the command staff. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to.
Councilwoman Amara?
Thank you. Have you been able to bring, what's her name?
Bolo?
Lola?
Bolo,
It's a boy. Hold on.
as in
Bolo.
be on the lookout. So a little
Bolo.
play on words, but
Got it. So to any of the campuses for the schools or children to see? Or-
we haven't done that yet. The closest that we got to that was the picture here of Chief Canan. He was at Shop with a Cop with us this year.
Oh, good.
And I could barely get through the gym as I was carrying him to our table. So
Yeah.
he definitely is having a huge impact, and he's just a natural attention getter.
Raw.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else? Do you have anything?
I just wanted to say what a great addition and welcome, Volo. We just think you're so adorable. I had the opportunity to meet him at the Red Sand event last week, and just so glad that he can be a part of our police department and support.
Oh, he's happy.
Oh, yeah. You have something to say too, don't you? Yeah. Anyway, we're so pleased that you were able to bring him in, and looking forward to seeing him participate in the community and help our officers and dispatchers and everyone. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Sarah Salmon?
Well, thank you for your presentation and thank you for bringing Bolo here so we could meet him in person. I just think it's so important that we recognize the trauma and all the events that our police officers go through. So I really appreciate the fact that you took this approach. It's not just for the community, it's for the officers who help our community. So I'm really glad you went this route.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Holmes?
Yes, I noticed in the first photograph, Daniel Berlant was in there. And is he part of this dog thing too, or?
He's not. He just happened to be a subject of circumstances. One of his first public appearances was at the rearrangement of council. So as former Councilman Berlant was here being recognized for
see.
everything that he
All
did,
right.
he was able to sneak a picture in.
All right, that clarifies that. Thank you.
I also wanted to say welcome to Bolo. We're very excited. I got to meet Bolo at the Christmas parade and then also at the rearrangement. And I think he's a great addition. I think that I mean, I'm a dog lover. I know that makes my day when I come home and see my dog. So I can only imagine, I would love to have one at work if I could, but we don't get to have them at my work, but I'm glad that we get to have them here.
Yes.
The only thing I will say is that I did talk with Chief Canan and our city manager just to talk about policies and procedures and make sure we had all the insurance and liability, all the kind of not fun stuff that you have to think about when you have an animal and, you know, add basically a new employee to this payroll. And
Yeah.
so we'll be sorting all that stuff out and get more information on that.
Yeah, currently in the works, and we're building on that as we speak. So
Thank you so much for
Thank
your
you.
presentation.
thank you.
Thank
And bring him around.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
We'll all get in that little pet.
How cute.
I like the little bar. There's a little bar. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like-
I heard you barking out there a minute ago.
Just making
Yeah, it
himself
would be
known.
good for council wellness too, just saying.
Well, you know what?
Long meeting, maybe strategic planning.
There
We
you
do-
go.
we do bring him around. It's
Maybe
good to
we need
see
one for the, you know,
you.
sometimes it can be a little bit, you know.
Does she know us? Will he know us now then?
Maybe.
I did too.
I think that's a good way to start off all of our meetings. All right. Thank you so much for your presentation. And thank you, Chief. We appreciate you coming in. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next item, which is the consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine in nature and will be approved by one blanket motion with a roll call vote. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless persons request specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for discussion and separate action. Any items removed will be considered after the motion to approve the consent calendar. Are there any requests from the council to remove any items from the consent calendar? Yes, Madam.
Item number
Brown.
3, Madam Mayor?
Okay, item number 3. All right. Any other items?
No, I was gonna pull for item 3.
The 3?
Yeah.
Okay. Any members of the public who would like to pull an item other than number 3 from the consent calendar? Okay, hearing none. Is there any public comment on the consent calendar? Okay, with that, I would like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar as amended, removing item number 3. Okay, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Dowden Calvillo,
Aye.
Amara,
Yes.
Holmes,
Aye.
Sarah Salmon,
Aye.
Mayor Riddell Harris.
Aye. Okay, moving on to item number 3, the memorandum of understanding between the City of Auburn and the County of Placer Work Experience.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I just wanted to pull this item off the agenda, not because I had specific questions, but I really just wanted to applaud the city for entering into this MOU or bringing this really before the council for consideration. I think this is a wonderful opportunity, not just for the city, but for the participant that in the program. I note that this will not have any impact on current employment with the city, so there won't be any overlap or the individual won't be taking over any duties. This is a great opportunity for this individual, whomever it may be, or individuals, to really learn some valuable skills. And we can actually get some really valuable service. I know that the first project, they're looking to go through all the documents that are in the basement, and I don't even want to know how many boxes there are. But that'll be a big job, but it's one that needs to be done. So I'm just really very pleased to see this item before us today and wholeheartedly support it.
I definitely agree. We've had many consultants that have said, when we couldn't find something, we went and dug down the basement. So it'll be nice when we don't have that anymore. Yes, Madam.
Yeah, I'll agree. This is a great program and I support it totally.
Any other comments?
Yes.
Councilman Holmes?
Well, I wanted to know how many people would be included in this particular action? Is there an estimated number of whether you call them temporary or employees or what?
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members. Councilmember Holmes, to answer your question, it's a 3-year agreement. Is it 3 months? No, yes. So it's a 3-year agreement with the county, and then it's 3 months for each participant in the program. We get a chance to interview them to begin with and see who's the best fit and find somebody that'll work for the project that we have. So we're experimenting. This is Anastasia from Placer County. She works in the program. So if anybody has any programmatic questions, she can answer that. But yeah, it'll provide us somebody for 3 months. We can actually have multiple people. We can have more than one at a time, but with the amount of staffing we have and the oversight, that would probably be difficult. But we're going to give this a shot and put somebody down in the basement and start inventorying those boxes. We're actually going to let them cart them up out of the basement so they don't have to sit down there. We have a table for them. So anyway.
That's nice. That's nice.
I hope they last 3 months.
Well, then we get another one. No.
That assignment.
Does anybody have any questions for the county or?
Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much.
All right.
I think we're all in support of this. We're very excited about starting it and trying it out.
Really appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on this item? Okay, hearing none. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Actually, I'll make a motion,
Oh.
Madam Mayor. I'll move that by resolution that we authorize the city manager to sign an MOU between the city and the county of Placer to participate in the county's Welfare to Work program.
I'll second
Second.
that.
All right, now, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll? Thank you.
Councilmember Dowden Calvillo.
Aye.
Amara.
Yes.
Holmes.
Aye.
Sarah Sammons.
Aye.
Mayor Riddell Harris.
Aye. Thank you so much. Okay, that concludes the consent items. Moving on to public comment. This time is provided so that the public may speak to the council on any item that is not on the agenda. Please make sure your comments are brief as possible, not to exceed 3 minutes. The council cannot take action on the items that are not included on the agenda tonight. Items may be referred to staff or placed on future agendas.
Good evening, council. I'm Eric Chun, and I wanted to give you an update on the sound and media system proposal that has been recycling around. You had a good chance to hear it, Veterans Day Parade, and we also used something similar when we did the chamber release, the Quackens event. And at any rate, I've been getting a lot of positive responses on it, and I have a second draft I'd be happy to send you, and then decide to form a committee for discussion on that and look at funding sources for phase 1. Also, if you want any auditions on the system, I can set a mock system up, something like it. And I also have access to a brand new 14-foot by 8-foot screen that I purchased for Auburn Elementary School, along with a brand new projector. I just tried it tonight, and it's gorgeous. So we certainly have some opportunities here for the city of Auburn and the community to partake in a new media system, which give you visual media as well as audio media for the many events that we have in downtown Auburn. That's all I have to say, and I'll be happy to send any drafts to any of interested council members, and then we can start discussion after that.
I think it would be good if you send it to staff, because staff would need to be involved in anything that we worked on. So I
Okay.
think that would be a good first step. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Good evening, Council. Saul Brocker, Auburn. Yeah, I learned something that you might be interested to know. Just wanted to bring it to the council's attention. Tio Pepe's in Old Town will be closing at the end of this month, after serving Auburn for like 39 years.
Wow.
So just wanted to let, the council know that, I guess, some details, I guess the parking lot out front has been closed for a while and it's been affecting their business. And so they rent the building and so they're not able to continue. And anyway, if anyone would like to thank them or anything for serving, for being here for 39 years.
Yeah.
You need to do it in the next week. So just,
Thanks for
Yeah.
letting us know.
Yep.
That's unfortunate, but they're leaving.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't know.
Yeah, I didn't know either.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Gina Stassi Vanacore, and I am the Director of Public Affairs, Marketing, and Programs for Pioneer Community Energy. Pioneer has been serving the region for 5 years. We are a locally owned, not-for-profit electricity provider serving El Dorado and Placer counties, the cities of Auburn, Colfax, Lincoln, Placerville, Rockland, and the town of Loomis. We are very pleased to have added Grass Valley and Nevada City to our service territory effective this month. As a reminder, we supply electricity, which is indicated as generation on customer bills, but gas and transmission and distribution costs are still from PG&E. As many of you are aware, energy costs, including generation, are rising across the board. Despite these rising prices, we are pleased to share that the focus of our board and leadership remains on ratepayer savings, resulting in more than $85 million in customer savings since 2018. In December, our governing board, which is comprised of representatives from each of our member agencies, including Councilmember Dowden Calvillo, approved Pioneer rate changes that support a 10% discount for Auburn residents and businesses compared to PG&E's portion of the bill for all of 2024. This will result in a projected $41 million in additional savings for all customers in our territory during this year. In Auburn, a household with an average electricity usage of 650 kilowatt hours per month will save roughly $138 per year. We encourage all customers to take advantage of the ratepayer savings Pioneer has to offer. We have field days on the third Friday of every month at the Auburn Senior Center, and these are open to all customers who have questions or need a little bit of help understanding their bill. For customers who are experiencing financial hardship, a section on our website provides information about programs that help support bill repayments. Also, based on feedback from our Community Advisory Committee, we plan to roll out some exciting programs this year, including partnering with local retailers on LED lighting, programs for solar customers, and programs specifically tailored to meet our business customers' needs. We do plan to be on the agenda at an upcoming meeting to further discuss our successes in 2023 and our plans for 2024. And if you need more information, you can always get it at pioneercommunityenergy.org.
Great.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for your public comment. That was great information.
Thank you, Gina. Thank you.
Okay, is there any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, then we're going to move on from public comment on to our public hearing. The city council, when considering the matter scheduled for the hearing, will take into account all of the things on the agenda. This public hearing is for the Community Development Block Grant Closeout Report.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members. Thank you very much. This public hearing is required by HCD. It's one of these things that we've been through several different public presentations about the CDBG program and the loans we have out. This is to accept their report in a public environment, allow people to provide input on it, and hopefully you accept the report so we can submit that to HCD. Background is on June 22nd of 2022, the Auburn City Council approved resolution number 20-44, authorizing the submission of an application to the California Department of Housing and Community Development, or HCD, to use $344,000 of the city's community development block grant program income funds for a business loan for Restaurant Josephine. So as a result, it was approved, and the underwriters proposed that the city loan committee approved a 10-year, 2% loan at $311,000 to provide sufficient funds for their startup and operation, with a $60,000 forgiveness of the final loan amount if they met the performance requirements. Restaurant Josephine, excuse me, the loan closed March 17th, 2021. I'll note for the record that most of the 2020 dates in this staff report should have been 2021. Somebody didn't catch those till tonight. And so March 17th, 2021, the initial loan disbursement totaling $211,000 were made. And the total amount was through May of 2021. Restaurant Josephine began takeout service in May of 2021 and opened for in-house distance seating in June of 2021. Even with COVID restriction impact, the restaurant was able to maintain operations with the financial assistance provided by the CDBG program loan and eventually reaching profitability ahead of projections by providing high quality offerings, maintaining strict cost control, staff management, and sound business practices. The business exceeded the total FTE or full-time employees that are required, which was 11, by providing 14 full-time jobs, with 71% of them filled by low to moderate income individuals, which was created within the required 18 months for the program. And as a result, they qualify for the $60,000 debt forgiveness. So in sum, in compliance with the original loan approval, the $311,000 that was authorized, they only took $211,000 of that, plus with debt forgiveness of $60,000, the new debt amount is $151,000 at 2% for the remaining 102 months of the original 10-year term. And so that'll be the total amount they have to pay back. I also want to note another typo. After all expenditures of the loan and associated costs to execute the loan, the documented CDBG compliance amount that will be reprogrammed back into our fund, so the money that wasn't used, is actually $82,887. And so I just want to note that for the record. I hope that the City Council will approve this closeout report so we can submit it to CDBG and get Restaurant Josephine on a track to repay and continue to be a great asset in this community and a great place to eat. So.
Great. Thank you so much for that presentation. Are there any questions or?
No questions,
No
but I have
questions.
comments, so I can just wait. till
Okay.
after.
Councilwoman Amar?
Yeah, I have a quick question. So I'm just a little bit confused. So right now in our fund, we have 82,940. No,
It's going to be that's the amount that's reprogrammed back into the CDBG fund. I do not have the total fund balance at the moment.
okay. So do you know whether or not we'd have enough for another opportunity for someone to take advantage of this?
We were talking about once we get that reprogrammed, then we can use it for another business, correct?
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long does that take to get this?
It has to go through an approval process through HCD. So just like the standard agreement that we went through with them, the money then is programmed, they authorize it for program, and we come back to you for authorization to move forward with the loan grant, whatever the program is that we put together for that. I want to note that in years past, we were able to get program funding from HCD pretty easy. They had economic development funds that were over-the-counter grant processes to the cities that could then use them for these types of revolving funds. They have not had those in a couple of years, so we're kind of using the money that we have available or the money that's left. We do have a consultant, Chuck Wolf, who is on this. He's the one that prepared most of these documents. We also cover his expense out of those program costs too. So that money's not growing at the moment. But we do have money available, and we have discussed internally businesses that we might approach about with their needs.
Fantastic. Should I make a comment or do you want?
I just want to see if there's any other questions first. Yes, Councilman Holmes?
Yes, of the money that's left in the fund, I'm wondering who the loan review committee was, and that does it have to be a new business or an existing business that could qualify for it?
The economic development loans are pretty broad, loans are pretty broad, as I understand it. It's just business in need. The thing that we have to be cautious with is depending on what they're going to use the funds for, it comes with the implication of prevailing wage. So if they're going to use it for certain things, improvements to buildings and so forth, it may cause them a little bit more difficulty. I don't, Gary, do you happen to know who is the loan? I don't either. My time here doesn't go back that far, but we would certainly figure out who the loan committee was moving forward for the next round.
Thank you.
I apologize for not having that answer.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, do you want to make a comment?
I just wanted to make a comment that I'm, very supportive of this item. I think that the CDBG grant program is a really great one. And, this is just a great example of success story with Josephine's, and looking forward to getting this done as quickly as possible so we can free up some additional monies for some new businesses.
Councilwoman Mark, do you have any comments?
And I echo the same. I think that was a real success story, but also I like the fact that they've hired individuals and they're part of our community. Wonderful. So I'm so supportive of this, and I'm very happy to hear that you are looking again for us to take advantage of this program in the near future.
Thank you.
All right.
Your Simmons?
I just want to make sure we follow procedure and actually close the hearing.
I will.
before-
I haven't done public comment yet. I was
Okay.
just having you guys do
Well,
comments.
it's because our comments and questions are like.
Oh, they're
Sorry.
after the public.
Yeah.
comment. Sorry.
Sorry, no, it's okay.
Apologize. All right, so I need to close public comment or no, close.
Let's open public comment, accept public comment.
So we need to close the public hearing though. Sorry, I haven't done one of these before.
But we have to first accept the public comment from the public.
Right.
And then we close, yeah.
Okay, so, okay, moving on to accepting comments from the public. Is there any comments on this? Okay, closing public comment. Now we're gonna close the public hearing. Okay. And then we move on to any comments from council. Sorry.
I will repeat what I will,
Ditto.
let the record show. I said.
All right, well,
Apologize for that. Getting the order incorrect. Councilwoman Sears.
No, I was gonna say, I mean, those are always hard to follow. We always had 2 or 3 a year at the school board. So I totally get it. No, I was very happy to see, like Sandy said, a success story. And hopefully we have the opportunity again. We just, sometimes those things aren't in our control, but if we can, that'd be great. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I just wanted to make a point of information. According to our budget, there's about $31,000 left in that CDBG. So if we add the 82, then we've got a nice little amount of money there. Over $100,000 will be available, 110,000.
Sounds good. Councilman Holmes, you have anything?
well, I'd like to move by resolution.
Can I say that I'm supportive of this too before we?
Oh, yes, well,
I also am very excited about this, and I wanted to thank the staff for all the hard work that you had to do in order to accommodate this and go through the application process and all that. Because, I mean, it's something to have the money, but something else to be able to process all the paperwork around all these kind of things. So I appreciate your time and effort in that. So thank you. Okay, go ahead.
all right, well, I'll move by resolution to accept a closeout report of the Community Development Block Grant as required by the California Department of Housing and Community Development.
I'll second.
Okay, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Sure, I'm also going to note for the record that that is approving the revised resolution as amended. Councilmember Dowden Calvillo.
Aye.
Amara.
Yes.
Holmes.
Aye.
Sarah Sammons.
Aye.
And Mayor Riddell Harris.
Aye. Okay, that is all we have for public hearings. Moving on to business, we moved item 6 at the beginning of the agenda, so we're moving on to the discussion and direction regarding commercial cannabis and activities and land use.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, council members. I'm not going to touch that again.
Hot mic.
All right. So before you tonight is a staff report. It gives an overview of the law and then some things for the council to think about. Really, this evening, staff is looking for direction from you all to further explore these policy ideas and then come back with recommendations on those if that's what the council would like us to do. So give a brief overview of the law, some nomenclature, what your municipal code currently does, and then I'm happy to answer any questions and go into more detail on whatever issue the council would like to discuss this evening. So first, a little bit about nomenclature. Your municipal code talks about marijuana, state law talks about cannabis and marijuana. There's a push at the state level to refer to everything as cannabis. And that is how the more recent state laws refer to it. So you see those two terms. This report uses both because some of the laws still refer to marijuana, but those two terms are interchangeable. So prior to 1996, completely prohibited. 1996 was the Compassionate Use Act that allowed limited use for medicinal purposes with a doctor's recommendation. That was the law until 2015, when the legislature overhauled the medicinal use provisions. 2016 is when state voters adopted Prop 64, which is the Adult Use of Marijuana Act. The legislature then had a couple different attempts at consolidating a state regulatory framework for this. First, there was the Department of Cannabis Regulation, which is now the Department of Cannabis Control. For a while, part of it was under the Food and Ag Department and other departments the legislature created. It's now been consolidated into one. So a key part of Proposition 64, which applied to adult use as opposed to medicinal use, and those two things are still regulated quite differently under state law and can still be treated differently under your municipal code too. A key part of that law, and which Cal Cities lobbied quite intensely for, was to maintain local control. So there's a provision in Prop 64 that still allows you to completely ban the various ways that adult use could come into a local jurisdiction: retail, testing, production, cultivation, as it's referred to, delivery, and the like. So you retain control to completely prohibit those things. This is why when you look across the state of California, you will see a wide variety of regulatory frameworks at the local level. On one end of the spectrum are cities that completely prohibit it, except for what Proposition 64 allows, which is 6 plants at a private residence for personal use. And cities that have gone and allowed all the different types of adult use in their cities with permits from the state and also local authorization. And a lot of cities are in between there too. So this is up to locals to decide how far to go, because Prop 64 allows that decision to be made at the local level. So currently your ordinance prohibits everything except for the 6 plants. The 6 plants do require a permit from the police chief. They have to be in an auxiliary structure or in the primary residence, but not both. And there can't be any evidence of that production from the street or the other right of way. So in order to allow for adult use cannabis in the city, there needs to be an authorization at the local level. So that authorization could take the form of a permit of some kind or a zoning authorization. So you could simply allow it in a particular area, or you could require a specific permit for that use. And then they would also need to secure a state permit that applies to that particular use as well. So they'd need both in order to operate: state permit and local authorization or a local permit. And there are a lot of different forms that this kind of ordinance can take. With that, I'm going to pause and take questions and see if there's any particular direction you'd like to go with the discussion.
Are there any questions on what has been presented thus far?
Well, you still have to give your entire presentation. Are you done with your presentation?
Well, I think this evening, we're really looking for direction from the council on whether or not you want staff to continue looking into any of
see.
the policy questions here. So we did include a lot in the staff report,
Sure.
and then we have asked to focus on that one particular question.
So just
So
to
if you
clarify,
want-
we're not necessarily deciding on any kind of policy tonight.
No.
We're just deciding on whether we want to continue to talk about it or not,
Correct,
essentially.
yes.
Yeah, Councilman
Yes.
Holmes.
Well, as I understand the paper that you gave us, that under the existing thing, it's possible for the chief of police to give a permit for residents to grow up to 6 marijuana plants. And I want to find out if there are any that have been permitted thus far.
I was curious about that.
I had that same question, Councilman.
I may need to call upon the police or someone, the police chief or someone else in the department who can answer that question.
Well, the dog
I don't
left,
know.
but the chief is here, so.
Yes.
It also in your document calls it the chief of policy. Do we have a
Yes.
chief of policy?
The chief of police is the chief of policy for his department.
Okay. I'm like, I've
Wears multiple hats.
never heard you referred to as a chief of policy before.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, city council members, Ryan Canan, the chief of police, hopefully not to be chief of policies for the city. So the question being, do we have any permitted cannabis grows up to 6 plants for residents of the city of Auburn per our ordinance? Not that we are aware of. So if they're operating legally, we have not seen a permit for any of these grows, personal grows.
Okay.
And based on statistics, it's likely that we are just not capturing the ones that are, people are.
There is a potential that people are growing illegally per our city ordinance, but not to exceed, but not that we are aware of. Typically, they are through, like the city attorney talked about, through accessory dwellings. So it would be a separate building to someone's home. There was probably a couple years ago, there was a process we were going with a resident that never came to fruition, as far as we are aware of through permits.
Is that all of your questions? Councilman Holmes?
About this particular issue, yes.
While we have the chief of police, I just wanted to ask you a quick question about item number 2. It says the delivery of marijuana products or devices for the use of marijuana to or from a person, business, or location in the city is prohibited. How are we able to enforce what is mailed to and from people's houses? Because I know the mailing of cannabis is very popular now.
That is correct. The mailing of cannabis and marijuana through the Postal Service and through FedEx and the like is a very popular component of that. And again, a lot of this stuff is actually complaint-based. We don't have an officer dedicated to the post office team or looking into those options. But if we do come across those items, if someone was to report them, one thing that does happen is these criminals will actually deliver to a wrong address, and then they will go there to pick up the product. Oftentimes what will happen, regionally as it relates to this, I'm not aware of any here, but that person will get the package, see what's in it, and they will call us and we will take that item as seized property, as found property. But it does happen. It has happened obviously throughout the country where those things happen. Also, people delivering it. If a truck or something comes through town that we are made aware of, then there's something we could do about that.
But we don't get that very often.
We don't get that very often here.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Are there any other questions?
So, are the questions involving the staff report as well as?
Yeah, sure. We can, this is kind of a dialogue and a discussion on whether we want to keep talking about this. So I guess were there questions particularly about what the city attorney said? We kind of went through that. I guess so now there's just generally, what do we want to discuss as a council?
Do we want to maybe ask for public comment and then maybe have some discussion?
Sure.
Would that be?
Would that be better? Okay.
I think it might be good just to have maybe and then.
Sure.
Okay.
That sounds like.
That's
good.
fine.
Yeah.
Are you all fine with doing public comment? Okay, we're gonna open for public comment on this topic. If anyone would like to come up to the podium to give their public comment on this issue.
Hello, everyone. How are you guys doing? I guess I'm the one that kind of started this debacle, huh? I thought I was going to come up here and talk about cannabis, but excuse me, I wanted to talk a little bit about Tio Pepe's. I've had some of the best times of my life in that restaurant. I got some pictures on my phone. I've danced with my wife in that restaurant.
Okay, so
I'm sorry. I just wanted to say
I appreciate
thank you for Tio Pepe's.
the topic that we're discussing right now.
But anyways, on the topic we're discussing right now, the objective behind this was really to raise, money for the city. And the focus on that is that direction alone. I'm here to support, any kind of positive or negative attributes that comes this direction. if I can actually, have some contact information that goes out to the public if they want to speak to me about any concerns they have or any kind of questions they may have. I want to be compassionate to those people that may think negatively in this direction. Since I am the one that's proposing this to our city, I want to be able to support both directions, positive and negative. So if there was some kind of way I can put together a contact or something that I could reach out to the public for, that's something I would like to do, if at all possible.
I think it would be good to, that the best way probably would be to do that through our staff because we're normally the ones who are commented or
Okay.
to, and then they could reach out if there's any specific questions for you.
Okay.
I think that would be probably it, but,
Okay.
Okay, thank you for your public
you.
comment.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and council members. My name is Steve Hyatt. I'm on the Planning Commission here in the city of Auburn. And as you are considering the idea of commercial cannabis and land uses associated where that would be located, I think there's a couple of things that you may want to consider, and I wanted to bring that to your attention. One of which is the city of Auburn receives federal funding in the form of grants. And I can't speak for this situation specifically, but I can tell you, having worked for a consulting engineering firm throughout my career, that in order to receive federal funding through contracts, there were a number of criteria that had to be met in order to receive that federal money, including no use of any illegal drugs from a federal standpoint. True, cannabis is legal in the state of California. However, the federal government still deems that it is illegal. And so I think that's something that needs to be considered, needs to be investigated further by staff before you move too far. I'd also like to point out that it has probably been considered that cannabis and commercial cannabis could be considered a tax revenue for the city of Auburn. However, there are added expenses with the effect of possible additional police enforcement that might be needed, testing possibly, things such as that. And I think that those are the types of things that staff should also investigate thoroughly before you move too far on this. Considering those two items, I also know, as being a member of the Planning Commission, that staff is spending a fair amount of time right now on our general plan update, form-based code, as well as other things. And so in my humble opinion, I feel that it would be better if staff were to continue to focus on those assignments that has already been given to them, as opposed to taking a large amount of staff time to focus on the commercial cannabis and the land use of this zoning. Where would that commercial cannabis be placed? So for those opinions, for those feelings, my opinion is that this is not something that the city of Auburn should investigate further at this time.
Thank you.
Sure.
Good gracious. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and esteemed council members, and thank you for the opportunity to speak on this item tonight. First, I want to thank Jared because it's brave to initiate these types of conversations in your community. And so I think that's really important to recognize that.
Could you introduce yourself, please?
That's my next paragraph. So absolutely. My name is Lauren Carpenter and I am the CEO of Embark. We are a Northern California cannabis retailer who has the privilege of serving a dozen communities, including Chico, Tahoe, Myers, Sacramento, and more. So I really just wanted to take a moment to express my gratitude that you are having this preliminary baby stepping conversation this evening. This is a conversation that we've helped to navigate in dozens of California communities. And, it's a brave first step to initiate these conversations in community. But I can share that as someone who enjoys the privilege of serving a dozen communities in California today, the work is well worth it. We're proud to be working collaboratively and in strong partnership with the communities we serve. I know tax revenues were mentioned, providing vital tax revenues, but also importantly, providing a living wage for our employees and providing a service for those in the community who are looking for access to cannabis. So I just wanted to thank you again for taking this preliminary step in initiating the conversation and obviously encourage you. There are folks like myself who have been around the block on, starting this process and starting the conversation and who would welcome the opportunity to work collaboratively with you all and with staff just to provide lessons learned from having navigated, merit-based processes in other communities over the past approximately 5 years since legalization. So thank you for this opportunity to speak, and we certainly look forward to potentially having the opportunity to have more robust conversations with you all and staff on this moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additional public comments?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. My name is Paul Aronowitz. I'm a 40-year resident of Auburn, and I'm in favor of the council exploring this, even if it does take staff time. I think there's an enormous revenue base for the city of Auburn that's being lost. I'm not sure whether the council's attorney, he stated that the law allows certain activities, commercial activities, but the law also allows people to use cannabis. There's nothing in your present ordinance that says people can't in their own home use cannabis. So they're buying it somewhere, and they're paying an enormous tax load to do that. And I think the amount of potential revenue is something I think you need to look at in terms of the cost, in terms of staff time and law enforcement time and enforcement of use. I mean, I think Colfax has a store, and obviously Colfax has less resources than Auburn, and when I was trying to get on the council, I made the point that right now the city gets an enormous amount of revenue from gas tax, and that is not going to go on forever. Given the state's decision at this point to turn commercial vehicles to electric and fleets electric, a lot of the tax revenue you're getting now from the tax revenues coming from card lock stations, because the billing comes to Auburn. So whether they want to stay in Auburn or not, their revenues are going to be diminished, and that's going to diminish Auburn's revenues. And I think you have to look at this on the long term. And if you wait long enough, other municipalities that aren't subject to the county will pass an ordinance that allows the sale of cannabis in those areas. And you'll lose the tax revenue to them as it spreads out. So I think not actually going further and looking at the potential economic benefits versus the costs would be foolish in my mind. Thank you.
Good evening, council. Just a quick comment on the topic at hand. Yeah, I would just say, this is just my opinion, but Saul Brocker, sorry, Auburn. Yeah, sorry about that.
Saul.
Yeah, so I would caution the council against thinking strictly in terms of profit when making decisions, monetary profit, just because I think sometimes, you'll find that businesses that tend to profit off vice, they can be profitable in the short term as far as tax revenue, but they can be less profitable in the long term because of other, factors like he was saying, enforcement. You could have, there could be long-term expenses associated with profiting off of vice, basically, is what I'm saying. So I would just caution the council not to think strictly in terms of short-term monetary profit when making decisions. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Evening, Madam Mayor and council members. My name is Connie Brocker.
Thank you.
And I just want to, I've been a longtime resident in Auburn as well. And my concern is for how marijuana impacts a community. Accidents increased tremendously. There's a lot more abuse in the neighborhoods. There's fights, I was working with Salvation Army on Orland for a fire a few years ago, and they had people burning other people's crops. And, you know, that's a mass amount, of course, but you still have a lot more theft, a lot more tit for tat, so to speak, when people are not thinking with just cognizance. So that's I would just like to bring that to your attention and ask you to think about the impact overall on the community. And we have a really great, pretty safe, thank you, Chief, community here. And I just think that that would be a detriment to our whole community. So thank you.
Thank you.
Evening, Mayor, evening, council members. My name is Sam Ferreira. I'm a third generation member of this community. My grandparents helped found this area. I personally have been working in the cannabis space, the commercial cannabis space, since 2017, starting off with counseling, doing a lot of consulting work, specifically working out of a cannabis resource center, where we were an incubator for investors, property owners, startups, so on and so forth. Through that time, I've learned a lot about the differences between some misunderstandings with the industry and how it can affect communities. You know, a lot of people thought there would be an increase in crime, increase in other, you know, say gateway drug stuff. We have actually now been around long enough that we can see statistical data across the United States as states continue to legalize. And you can see that there's actually been a decrease in overdoses, roughly 25 to 30% per state on average. There's actually an increase in community outreach and a lot of people coming together more. There's a lot of people that are actually quitting tobacco and alcohol because of that, because there's many different ways to consume it. But additionally, it's shown that there is tax revenue, and yes, there's revenue that can be created from it, but it's also, I think, I think it's our duty to serve the people. You know, this was something that was voted on by a state. Currently, there's 167 municipalities in the state that have some sort of commercial cannabis regulation that's been set forth. It's roughly 35% of the state. It's really an underserving of what was voted as a state level. So I think for myself, being a multi-generational member of this community, you know, to think that, well, if we continue down this path and try to develop this further, it could invite other issues. But to think that cannabis hasn't been in this community for a long time is, I think, kind of nearsighted. It's been a part of most of this community for a long time. And if anything, I think it would benefit us in many ways to continue this discussion. And I thank you guys for taking the time to consider it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to give any public comment? Okay, with that, we're gonna close public comment on this issue. Councilwoman O'Hara?
Yes, I have several questions, but first, I would like our city manager, if possible, can you expand on the staff report?
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. So the reason that we're here with this item in the first place is we had a discussion at a previous council meeting. Council gave us direction to bring this item back for continued discussion and possible action, right? So we didn't want to, in talking to the city attorney, we didn't want to make the leap of, does council want us to continue ferreting out all these different policy issues that are in the staff report? Which is the reason why this kind of half step that we're at right now, right? Asking, do you want us to continue to spend staff time on this and then start working through these policy issues? So in the staff report, like the primary policy issue is allowing or not allowing cannabis businesses in the city. But then there's also questions like, what type of cannabis business would you allow, assuming that you allowed it in the first place? The number of allowed businesses, the location and zoning operating standards. The type of permits that you would need to be able to operate the business, permit, processing procedures, deliveries, revenue. And that's kind of like the sort of rounded out portion of the policy issues. Gary did a lot of research into a local example with Grass Valley. And so the model that Grass Valley has is setting up a committee that would review and score and screen applications, assuming that council moved forward with this in the first place. And so one of the things that we would be bringing back to you if council gives us direction to move forward would be, how would we do that, right? So you need to have some sort of a vetting process for folks who are applying for this type of a business, right? Setting out those kind of parameters, working through that. I think Grass Valley's model is a pretty good one to use, and talking with Gary, but we need direction from council on if you even want us to do that in the first place. So that's really what we're looking for from you tonight, and answering any questions that you might have on top of these kind of policy issues that you want us to dig into as well. I just wanted to give a little bit more context about why we're here and kind of the framework that we're using.
Okay, thank you. Did you have anything else you want to say?
Yes, so, well, so it's very difficult for us to make decisions if we don't have more input, more information with regard to what the speakers, public said here tonight, and with regard to how the community feels. So my question to you is it possible to conduct a survey of some sort to bring to the public so that we can have some feedback with the public?
We can certainly do surveys. Our general plan consultant has a survey, pretty robust survey about the general plan itself. I think that we could use that kind of structure that he has, the same channels that he's going to be sending that out to, not tied to the general plan, but use the same kind of survey format that he has and send it out through that. That's one way to do it. I think doing something like, whether it's like a task force or doing town hall meetings to gather information from folks in the community, so see what folks want, concerns that they have, and give input that way is another good way to do that as well.
Okay.
But I think that if the council wants us to move forward, I think that the direction from council should be to try to work out a way to get as much public participation, the public input as possible, right? Because otherwise we're sort of creating these policy decisions in a vacuum, and we certainly don't want to do that.
Yes. And
just to piggyback off that really fast, if that's okay. I think that one of the critical things is there's a lot of ways to do this, and the how is really important. So having people generally comment on what they think about cannabis is not, I don't think that would be terribly helpful. I think we need to have staff figure out what they would recommend that we do, and we talk about that more and kind of narrow down what we really would ask what people think about before we just throw it out there to the community, what they generally think, because everyone has different things in mind of what this could mean. Are we going to put it next to Placer High School? Absolutely not. But maybe that might be something someone objects to. Unless we say where it's going to be located, they might think that that's what we're going to do. So I think it's really critical that we talk about it first before we go and put it out to the public, and make sure we know we're asking them exactly what they want. The other piece is, when I went to the Cal Cities conference, I went to a session on this, and I got a lot of positive feedback from a lot of cities, but one of the things they said that council should do first is go visit a location. Go see what it's like. What do they actually do? What does it involve? Talk to the council members. Lots of them had positive feedback. Some had negatives. The nice thing is we're late to this, so we can benefit from everyone else's false starts and issues that came up, and hopefully not redo their mistakes. So I'd like to kind of get a sense of what is everyone else doing? What are the things that went well? What are the things that didn't go well, so that we can benefit from those things first, and then kind of use that to help us make some decisions. Because us just picking out of the blue, we could have done that years ago when this all started. Now we have the benefit of using other people's experience.
Yeah, 100%. I think the idea of visiting is a good one. We could set it up probably with 2 of you at a time, so we're not doing with violating Brown Act and having to call a special meeting and all that stuff. So, but we could certainly arrange that. That wouldn't be a problem at all.
Okay.
So, Madam Mayor, if I might, just as
Please do.
a point of information really, is that the discussion, really, I think tonight is whether or not we want to provide any energy into this. And we're kind of getting into the assumption that we have wanted to do that. So I just want to kind of caution the council that really the question before us is whether or not we want to put any energy towards this. So maybe if we can kind of focus our comments on that and then, and then go from there, if, with all due respect.
Yes.
Rather than provide direction on how to get public comment and things of that nature. So.
Yep.
And
I agree.
whenever you're ready, I'd like to make some comments.
Okay. Do you want,
I'm not done with
okay,
my
go ahead.
questions.
Yes. please do.
So, yeah, and that was my point, was that, my point was that I need more information. I mean, what I hear tonight, I hear some pros and cons. I don't know a lot about this. I'm learning and I need a lot more information, and I need more information from the public, and I need it in a way that's appropriate. So that was the reason for that question. My other question is, there was an individual who spoke about our revenue with rural fuel services. Can you speak to that a little bit about our revenue? Because that would factor into whether or not we should continue. That is some.
Yeah, I mean, the sales tax sharing agreement that we have with World Fuel goes away in 2035. And so staff is continually looking for ways to plug that revenue hole when we get to that end, right? So yeah, if there's a revenue source, whether it's cannabis, whether it's whatever it is, we need to be looking at ways to plug that. That's a pretty significant hole that we're going to be in if we don't have a way to backfill that. So we need to look at that stuff.
Okay. And then just I have some preconceived notions and hysteria around this myself, actually. So I want to ask a few questions to our attorney Gary, because were you able to speak to the Grass Valley council or staff that started?
Do you know them?
Their dispensaries?
Yes. We did see that pretty closely through the drafting and the implementation, yes.
Then the question I have is, are you able to note, just preliminarily, have they had increased criminal activity since they've started?
Not that I'm aware of. I haven't specifically asked that question, though.
Okay. And how about increased substance abuse among minors as a result of their two dispensaries? Do you have any knowledge of that?
Yeah, I really can't speak to that, and especially not specifically to Grass Valley. So
Okay.
can't speak to it.
And then just to be clear, from the reading of what our possibilities could be if we decide to move forward with this, is it possible, it seems un-American, to limit it to one dispensary? Is that a possibility?
It is possible, and many jurisdictions do limit the number of permits that they issue. So if you create a regulatory scheme that requires a local permit to operate, and you say the city will issue no more than 2 or 3 or 4, depending on whatever number the council ultimately settles on, it is possible to do that. When you cap it, there needs to be some kind of process for how those permits are provided. And so that's where the scoring system comes in that the city manager was talking about, or some kind of lottery or other system that's put in place.
So there's a fairness aspect.
Right.
Okay. And I've never been to a dispensary, but perhaps you have. Can you describe Grass Valley's dispensary or one of them?
Yeah, I don't think I've been to that one. I've also been to a similar presentation at Cal Cities and have seen pictures and other things that from the dispensary. So I don't know if I can provide a better description than that.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm just going to direct it to.
Oh, I was just going to say, I can speak to that.
That's okay.
With Grass Valley. Okay.
I'll just wait.
Okay.
I'll continue and then we can go from there. And I can look it up. So I do appreciate that. So there already is a regulation. I think, is it a state regulation that it can't be, is it 600 feet near schools or daycares?
Correct.
Okay. Are there any additional state regulations that I might have missed here?
That's the distance one that's most widely known. The city can go a further distance than that, but not a shorter distance than that because that's the state law minimum, but you can go further than that. There's a slightly different standard for medicinal cannabis, which is different than adult use for the distance wise. And so whenever you're allowing both or one or the other, the rules are a little bit different, but the distance way is the one. And then there's advertising requirements and a lot of regulation that comes from the state with the permits that are issued to these businesses.
Okay. And is there additional regulations that Grass Valley imposed that kind of stands out that you think might be a really
There were a few that we mentioned in here. Grass Valley also requires a security plan, that the permit be located in a conspicuous location, and that cannot consume the cannabis products within 50 feet of the business, visible from the public right of way or the business's entrance. So the concept of a security plan or some kind of other plan in place is pretty common in a lot of the local ordinances.
Okay. Okay. And then you talked about the land use, so we can, I'm a little unclear on that. So we can select the location. How big of an area?
So ultimately, this is a zoning power and a zoning question for you all. So you could create a zone, you could allow it into a current zone, you could create a zone specifically for this, or you could create an overlay zone and put it on top of multiple zones. So it's an exercise of land use regulation. So you can make it quite large citywide. It could be quite small and be only on a few parcels or a smaller area, depending on how you craft it.
Okay. And so our ordinance wouldn't necessarily change, well, you have to be 21 years old to buy and to use it, is that correct?
For adult use, yes.
Yeah, so, and it can't be used in public.
Right.
So, and that wouldn't necessarily change with regard to our discussion to have cannabis dispensary.
That's right. This discussion is really on the city's authority to regulate and restrict or allow in different areas. But as one of the public speakers mentioned, there is a whole state law on possession and use of it that applies to personal use and how much you can possess at a given time and the like, and how it's transported. And those would continue to apply, and the city would not be changing those rules.
Okay. And do you have any insight as to, well, never mind, I'll withdraw that. Actually, that's the last question. Thank you. Thank you. And I'll have comments.
All right, before we move on to comments, are there any other questions? Sure, go ahead. Yes.
I have mostly comments on the frame, specifying those, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the revenue producing, the production from this kind of facility. We all know that any kind of regulatory fee would be assessed at an establishment, this or otherwise, only be based on the cost of the regulatory action, correct?
Yes, as a regulatory fee, yes.
And that jurisdictions that enjoy a 5%, 4% additional sales tax that comes from these dispensaries, that's something that's approved by the voters, is that correct?
That's also correct, yes.
And is that general tax or is that a special tax?
It could be either, the way that it's framed, and it's typically done in one of two ways, either as a business license tax. It's typically done in one of two ways, either as a business license tax, which is typically a percentage of gross receipts, or as a sales tax. So the base sales tax rate, 7.25%. The city can add additional 1/8 of a cent on top of that in sales tax revenue, if approved by the voters, and that can be a general or a special tax.
So is there a limit as to how much of an extra tax we can place on dispensaries?
On the sales tax, it's an additional 2%. For the business license tax, I don't believe there's a max on that.
Okay.
But they are typically,
But essentially, when we talk about jurisdictions that are enjoying this additional sales tax, that 4 or 5%, that's something that was passed by those voters. So I just want to make that clear as well, and you've confirmed that.
yes.
I've read in your document that there's something called a development agreement, and that development agreement can result in additional revenue, but that additional revenue would be something that's negotiated between the city and the establishment, correct?
That's right. Some ordinances require that a successful applicant, as a condition of receiving the permit or in your ordinance itself, to enter into either a development agreement or a community benefit agreement. That can include lots of different things about outreach and advertising, and one of those things can be a community benefit payment or other payment to the city.
So when you talk about a community benefit agreement, and I see here you've listed things of fees for public outreach, education, community service, and things of that nature. But it seems to me that if we wanted additional funds for the purposes of conducting city business, that would need to come through the development agreement. So if you're looking to utilize revenues for specific city businesses as opposed to community, education and things of that nature, it really need to be something that's negotiated in that development agreement.
Yes.
So yeah, okay, and I'll reserve my, like I said, my comments. See, other questions? I have questions on public safety, but that's not something that's really within your bailiwick. Yeah, I think it's really just the only questions that I have at this point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Councilman Holmes.
Yes, thank you. I have a couple of questions in that. I wanted to see whether, other than Colfax, whether there's any other jurisdiction in Placer County that has developed a cannabis business. And I know they started as a medicinal cannabis, and then I guess they had quite a ruckus going into whether to make it a general cannabis availability or not. So I'd like to find out a little bit more about that.
I don't believe so. I don't think there are any storefronts other than in Colfax. Delivery, though, is currently happening. There's a dispute right now between the local jurisdictions in the state over a state law recently signed that allows delivery into any jurisdiction, even jurisdictions that have prohibited it. That does appear to be in direct conflict with Proposition 64, and there's a lawsuit over that right now. So delivery is occurring into many, perhaps even most jurisdictions, but I don't believe there are any other storefronts in Placer County.
Thank you.
Okay, is that all you had? Okay. Councilman Sarah Salmon.
So one of the questions I have, because I did take a look at Grass Valley's municipal code, and there's a lot in there. Do you happen to know, just maybe offhand, how long that process took from, say, it coming to the city council to drafting, to voting, and to where they're at today? Just how long was that process?
It was about a 2-year plus process of getting the ordinance in place and then going through that application process and permitting.
And then the second question I have, actually just got spurred by your last statement. So it already seems like there is already some present litigation regarding some of this already happening. So even if we went down that road, we're already dealing with litigation that we haven't even become involved in yet, correct?
Well, the litigation is really over whether or not the state could authorize those businesses to deliver into local jurisdictions that have prohibited it. So some cities have joined together in that lawsuit, but that wouldn't necessarily affect an ordinance that was adopted by you all.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, is that it for questions? Okay, then moving on to comments. Councilman Holmes, would you like to start? Do you have a comment on the, or any?
Well,
dialogue?
I am very hesitant to be in favor of this or make comments against it, but I think a little more information would be helpful. So that's my comment.
Councilwoman Sierra Salmons?
well, we know we don't know. I mean, that's kind of what I'm been gleaning from this. One of our public comments and one thing I've been thinking about since I just came onto the council is the fact that we do have a lot going on as a city. We've been hearing about our farm-based code, our branding project, our general plan just for the city, and the fact that we have to keep tabs on Placer County's general plan because that will affect us. We have the work that's been going on at the airport. We have various projects that we are now finally getting started on. And while I'm not going to speak for the staff, just knowing that I've had this experience before, I'm just not sure that our staff has the capacity to take on more hours at city expense to look into this. Having said that, we know that the reality is it's here. The reality is it's getting delivered. It's getting used. So my thought is for now, knowing that we are trying to do baby steps, and I think what we need to do is baby steps. I'm not inclined to move forward with this for now. That's my thought.
Okay. Councilwoman Dunn-Covia.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I appreciate that. Thank you very much, staff, for putting together the documents. I know that was just a little bit of information. This is such an incredibly complex issue. We're dealing with a potential business that was really unique. It's unique in many respects, but one of the most significant respects that it's unique in is the fact that it is dealing with a product that is considered illegal from the federal government standpoint. I have absolutely no problem with individuals who choose to utilize marijuana legally. None. I have no judgment at all. If it's used correctly, I'm not correctly, but legally, then that's fine. This is not anything against users or anything to that. I want to make that very clear. But I am concerned about various issues as this impacts the city of Auburn. I know that folks are very quick to say this might be a cash cow for the city. We've got a limited revenue coming in from our World Energy, and I agree that that is something that we absolutely need to tackle. We have indicated that we would do that, and we are looking at various economic development activities to do that. But I don't think that this is as easy as folks think it is to get revenue generated for the city of Auburn. Sure, there would be some sales tax just as there is for any other item that's sold in the city of Auburn. But when you talk about those big numbers, you're talking about taxes and you're talking about going to the electorate and asking for that. So I just want to caution that it isn't necessarily the easy way, easy money. There's a lot of things to consider with regards to public safety concerns. Again, given the fact that you're dealing with a product that cannot utilize payment in the form of checks or credit cards or other ways, I mean, really it's cash only. But I think really first and foremost is that this city council before my time, but I think Councilman Holmes, you were here at that time. This city council did take action to preclude these kinds of operations from happening in the city. And I think it was because, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Councilman, it was because there was a business that came knocking at our door. And the city decided at that time, and again, it was a different council, that it didn't want to move forward. And so it adopted an ordinance that precluded these kinds of businesses. Now we have, with all due respect, we have a local business owner, an entrepreneur, and I don't mean to cut that entrepreneurial spirit. I think that's phenomenal. I always applaud people that are looking to think outside the box. So I appreciate that. But this discussion that's even before us today is just based on one individual who has an idea, a concept that he would like to bring to the city. And we're not really talking about his specific proposal because that's not before us. We would have to decide even if, the way that we would even choose a particular facility. So I just want to make that clear that, I've been on the council for almost 3 years, and I myself have not had people come up to me and say, gosh, I wish that Auburn had a dispensary. I've not heard public comment. I haven't seen it in the newspaper or on social media. I have not seen or heard about a desire to move forward with this until we had our business owner that came to Auburn saying, I'd like to have a dispensary here. Can we start the discussion? So that's also something that's of concern to me, that this isn't something that like I said, that the public there's an outcry for it. So, I think that, again, we need to be cautious when we talk about these big revenue ideas. I have public safety issues. And lastly, and I'd like to concur with what Councilwoman Sierra Salmon said, is that, again, because this is such a complex issue and there are so many issues that need to be uncovered, the devil is in the details. And that's a lot of staff time. That's staff time from our attorney who's on contract, that we pay for, every hour that he spends. And we do have a lot of big items, the general plan. And part of the general plan process, we're going to talk about zoning. And so it'd be great to have that opportunity to have that document and have that discussion in place and have zoning in place, and then maybe go to this. We're kind of putting the cart before the horse when we talk about it from a general plan perspective, because right now nothing is zoned because this is prohibited. We have our strategic plan. We have our form-based code. We have the airport master plan, brand enhancement, economic development. There are so many issues. We have potential items coming out of the energy audit that once that comes to fruition. There is a lot on staff's plate right now, and I am not inclined to support moving forward at this time. I'm not saying no, never, but I don't think now is the time to devote the amount of time that is necessary to provide the kind of information that we need to determine whether or not we should consider overruling or overturning our ordinance that prohibits the dispensary of marijuana. I really think we need to prioritize what our staff does. We're going to do that. We have strategic planning coming up. So maybe we can talk about it in that arena. Is this something that's really important to us to really devote that kind of time? The chief's time is going to have to be utilized because, boy, chief, I got a lot of questions. You got, So I just really would caution my colleagues on the council at this time. I would prefer that we just postpone discussion on this until we can, like I said, look at our general plan, look at our zoning, and also hear from the public. We don't have to do a survey. We can talk to people also. I mean, we did receive a couple of written comments, Madam Clerk, that came to us with regards to this item. We heard a couple of people speak about it here today, but really not much. And so I don't even know where the electorate is on this particular issue. So with that said, I know that my colleague, Councilwoman Amara, has comments too, but I would be prepared to make a motion to.
We still need to do our comments. Thank
Yes.
you. Yeah, both of ours. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's what I mean. So we're gonna do those first.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I like having our local police. I like having an Auburn Police Department. I like having an Auburn Fire Department. And I'm sorry, but I think if we don't look ahead, we're in danger of being swallowed up by Placer County. And we have to look at every revenue source. The genesis of this was from a constituent. We have to listen to our constituents. We have an opportunity here. It's not just someone who is saying, I want a dispensary. They're not going to, this person is serious about it, and we have an opportunity here that we need to at least look at. He's willing to have help staff. We've had people come forward who said they're willing to help. So that is a cop-out for us to say it takes staff time. We have to look at what's important for our revenue for this city. Obviously, it's a balancing act. We have to have all the information in order to balance. But we have every opportunity. Our attorney laid out opportunities for us to restrict this and regulate it so that it meets everybody's fear. It suppresses everyone's fears, and that it gives us an opportunity for a potential revenue. There are development agreements. It will have to eventually go out for a tax. But in the meantime, we can be serious about development agreements. We can have an opportunity to bring in revenue and look forward. This cannabis situation, as I heard and I know and everybody understands, it's out there. People are or have it in their homes, they're getting it. And we're not able to derive any income from that. And it's happening all around. Grass Valley is the one deriving the benefit. I think obviously, the primary reason is to enable Auburn to derive a tax revenue. And what we need to do is understand, have more of an understanding that it is happening in jurisdiction all around. And if we don't take advantage of this opportunity now, other places will. It's already, they have, Grass Valley has one, Nevada City has one, Davis has one, El Dorado, and Redding. We all know cultivation up to 6 plants and recreational use is already legalized in California. Cannabis businesses still would be subject to the same restrictions regarding the prohibition of outdoor cultivation, use in public, creation of a public nuisance. And those are already in existence under California law. There's a number of businesses, it gives us an opportunity for substantial revenue. And I think we should direct staff to look at this and to answer some possible questions. What would our revenue projections be? What would the effect of crime be if there was 1 dispensary or 2? What is the breakdown of the people who frequent dispensaries by demographics in the state? So I would be in favor, and I think it's my position, that we direct staff to conduct a study, go 1 step further to continue whether or not for us to determine whether or not it's in the best interest of the city to have a dispensary at a location that council deems appropriate.
Thank you. Okay, we've heard a lot of conversations on both sides of this issue tonight. I just wanted to bring up a couple of things. I don't think that prohibiting it really has any impact on what happens in the city as far as marijuana and cannabis use in the city. People are going to use it. They can buy it. It can come in the mail to their house. It's more convenient than actually our dispensaries will be. But I think that all we're doing by prohibiting it is losing out on the revenue source. And that's, I feel like, unfortunate. The devil is in the details. We need to figure out how to do it well. We have the benefit of other people's experience. So that's an excellent thing for us to be able to benefit from. We don't have any rush to get it done, so we can take our time and do it the right way and plan it out. If it's a impact on staff time, we can talk through it and figure out what those impacts are. Our job as the council is to prioritize things. Maybe it doesn't get prioritized as one of the top 5 things we're doing right now, but there's no reason to say we shouldn't be discussing it because yes, it was outlawed a while ago. Things have changed a lot in the last few years. It's not the same world that it was 5 years ago plus. So I personally think that there's a lot of cities that were at Cal Cities who talked about it and had very positive experiences with it, had a lot of positive revenue impacts that happened from it, very few negatives. And a lot of those negatives were lessons that they learned that they were able to mitigate and correct. So I think it's kind of short-sighted not to try to look into this and see if it could work for us. I'd like to learn more about what those cities have done and have an assessment, but if we say no to this right now, we can't even do an assessment. We can't have staff look into it. We can't go on tours and get more information. Just because we say yes to talking about it doesn't mean we're saying yes to doing the whole thing in the next 6 months. It means that we're just going to keep moving forward. And I think that's important rather than stopping or moving backwards. I think it's worth our staff's time to look into what would make sense for Auburn, what everyone's comfortable with, and to get a sense of what the community wants us to do. I don't feel like right now, I have a good sense. I've talked to my friends about this, and they most certainly have an opinion about this and have said numerous things about why wouldn't we want to do this. And I honestly don't exactly know what the council was thinking when they said no to this, because it seems like there are some definite benefits to it. Maybe public sector tends to be more cautious if it hasn't been done by 10 people exactly the same way before. We tend to say no. But I feel like we've had the benefit of other people's experience, and I feel like it's one of those things that we have 10 years to figure out how to make up a huge revenue source, and we need to go after everything. We have, in all of our strategic conversations, talked about how new revenue sources are one of our top priorities. we don't have a lot of answers for that right now, and this seems to be one of them. So even though I'm not going to say I would agree to it at this moment, I definitely don't see the point in saying, no, we're not going to continue to talk about it and to see if this would work for Auburn. So that's my thoughts on it. There's no good reason to say no right now.
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we direct staff to look at continue to look at the policy for cannabis.
Okay, I'll second that. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Councilmember Dowden Calvillo,
No.
Amara,
Yes.
Holmes,
Yes.
Sarah Sammons,
No.
and Mayor Riddell Harris.
Yes. Okay.
Madam Mayor, point of information, now that the majority of the council has acted to request that staff provide additional information, I have a lot of points that I would like staff to look into. So do you want us to get that list to the city manager? How would you like us to disseminate that information rather than?
I would say an email to the city manager would be an appropriate way. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. If there are questions or concerns, yeah, feel free to email those to the manager. And of course, we're going to be talking more about strategic planning next week when we get together. So I think that would be a good time for us to talk about prioritizing staff time and how all those priorities kind of work together. So we know how staff can best work to meet those goals that we have.
Thank you. I will
Is there
do that.
anything else on this issue? Okay, with that, we'll be moving on to the next topic, which is the city manager's report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Couple things quickly. So given the continued forecast for rain, our Public Works Department wants to remind residents that they can get sandbags and sand, which are available at our School Park Preserve for those who need them. Auburn was recently listed as one of the 9 most quaint small towns in California, Sierra Nevada by World Atlas. Article mentioned the city's rich gold-rich history and our proximity to outdoor recreation. It also called out the historic courthouse and the wine and ale trail. They didn't rank it, but we all know, right? Like which one's number one.
Definitely number one.
Police Department's problem-oriented policing, or the POP program, was also featured in a recent Auburn Journal article. They talked about the great work that the POP team is doing regarding the unhoused in the city. And it noted as an example that we have had an individual who generated 22 calls for service for the months of January to May of last year. After getting him to accept services, those calls declined to 4, and they were only calls to connect to a new service. So not a negative call for sure. First workshop for the city's general plan update will be held February 22nd from 6 to 8 p.m. in the Lions Building at the fairgrounds. It will be a link to the general plan update website on the city's homepage sometime soon here. And then on the fire department side, our new fire engine was put into service this morning with its first call on a public assist. Station number 2 scheduled maintenance is just about finished, so staff will be moving back into that station soon here. And then we're planning a push-in event for the new fire engine once we are ready to get that done.
That'll be fun. And you'll invite council to
Of
participate?
course. Yeah, of
that's a
course.
fun one. Thank you.
Any questions I can answer? Right.
Okay. All right, on to council reports. Councilwoman Morrow, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So Downtown Business Association, cruise night, this was a general meeting. Their individual, I forget his name, who heads cruise night was there and talked about it. It's their 40th anniversary. They'll have bands coming up this summer. And also Funk Box Derby will be April 20th. And if it rains, April 27th. Canyons, as you guys all know, probably is April 25th to the 28th, and there will be road closures. So watch for that, but it'll be a fun time. March 9th will be work day for Daffodil Day. We're going, if you want to help downtown with daffodils, come and help out 9 to noon. And Auburn, downtown is doing their their signage. There was a discussion by Jonathan, talked all about that. And let's see, what else?
What day is Daffodil Day?
Daffodil Day to work is March 9th, 9 to noon.
Thank you.
Then an individual from the DBA approached me and wants to beautify Bicentennial Park. And I just want to throw that out. I think that's a beautiful idea. They actually want to have a chalk art fair in that area coming up. So I forget the date. Oh, no, June 1st, 8 to noon. Also, I was speaking to one of our staff, Matt Carducci's dad, Mr. Carducci, Larry Carducci, and he's a landscape gentleman, and he's very interested in helping if Auburn wants to beautify downtown and Old Town and have hanging plants and geraniums. See me, I want to kind of get that going. Anyway, and then I want to also give you an update on our pickleball courts, and better known as try and get activity down there to make that place more secure and more people utilizing our school park preserve. Their bids went out, and the lowest bid was awarded to a local individual, Baldoni Construction. Work is going to begin in March, I believe it's March, and everything's projected in terms of the funding. Everything's on their goal, and should be good to go. So everything, that's pretty exciting. That's all I have.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Councilman Holmes, do you have any reports?
Yes. And I'm disappointed that Tio Pepe's is going to be closing. And I've had meetings with the Old Town Business Association and continue to talk with our Congressman Kevin Kiley about getting a justification for the closure of Station A. His staff is still working on that, so we don't have a clear idea of whether we'll be able to open that up yet or not again. Also, I had a meeting with the people from the Joss House Museum. They are looking for volunteers who would like to be docents to keep that open more frequently for visitors coming from out of town and for local people as well. But it needs to be open on a more regular basis than it has been. Also, I did get word from Kevin Kiley's office that we are going to be receiving a couple of flags that have been flown over the nation's capital, which I requested for the use of the honor guard at the cemeteries to present to the families of veterans that have died. So those should be coming along soon. And let's see what, that's about it, I guess. Oh, I did speak to another business person in Old Town. And she indicated that she's going to be closing. I'm not going to say who it is, but she was inclined to be closing and make that space available for other business. And tomorrow I'm off to Monterey with the League of California Cities meetings there. I'm sure the issue of cannabis will be discussed, and be happy to report back on what if there's any consensus at all about it, what they have to say there. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Seer Salmons?
I actually have a commission report.
Oh.
Yay. So last week I virtually attended the Greater Auburn Area Fire Safe Council. And there were a couple of organization issues. I know they've been trying to retain their board members and reps. So that's ongoing. There was some discussion of the chairperson stepping down. There's a lot of obligations there outside of chair duties, but so far it's going to stay status quo and everyone just working together to respect her professional boundaries and yet at the same time try to still get business done. Some notes, the chipper program that the county offers right now is at a 1-week wait. So that was very good news to hear. So if you are interested, please contact the county. As of today, it was still a 1-week wait. So that's a 1-week wait. And then we also had a presentation from Lisa Strange, who represents the California Department of Insurance. And I'll be passing along the PowerPoint that she provided to the council. One of the biggest topics was the wait times. And I know that's been discussed at Medler's. It's been discussed just in informal topic meetings. And she didn't seem to think that there was a huge wait time. And it was pointed out that there were instances of people literally waiting 6 hours on the phone. And she had said that it was probably in regards to the FAIR Plan and not necessarily the Department of Insurance. And I think those in attendance weren't really sure about that statement, but nevertheless, she provided some good resources for us and happy to pass that along to our city manager and the rest of the council.
I actually just got notified that my insurance's company is moving out of the state, so I might take you up on it.
No, absolutely. And just a side note, I mean, it's not just affecting residents, it's also affecting business owners and nonprofits. Some of you may have purchased Cs from Kiwanis, and part of our insurance was actually canceled because we were within 750 feet of a fire zone. And so, I mean, there's not many nonprofits that actually have, storefronts, even pop-ups, but it did affect our group. We were able to find some insurance, but at a much higher rate. And so just, thought I put that out there too, but absolutely, I'll be sharing that information. Along those lines, looking forward to attending ARD's meeting, and that's it for now. Just learning more about our different city organizations, and just still happy to serve. Thank you.
Dowden Coville?
Yes, thank you very much. I wanted to report that the Endurance Capital Committee of the World, as you know, the council has appropriated funds for them for the water bottle filling station projects that came to the council initially a couple of years ago. I believe it was an 11-year-old or a 9-year-old child that had recommended that. So we are now in the process. We voted to have one installed in the art park by the restrooms there. So we'll be working with city staff, Menjol already, to ensure that it can be installed properly to tie into the water supply system and the drain there. But there will be a water bottle filling station there near the restroom for folks to come by. And I believe it's going to have a pet water filling station also for those that walk their dogs in town. Maybe our police dog, well, maybe our little emotional support pup will be there. So that's good news. And so look for that. We'll be ordering that and have that installed probably by spring, hopefully. Let's see here. Pioneer was here. And they came to provide public comments. I won't belabor that, but I will say that I was elected for a 3rd term as chair of Pioneer this year. Very grateful for the support of my colleagues on that body and the fact that we can save our customers so much in energy costs, electrical costs, of course. SACOG, we met last week as well. I was appointed to the Mega Region Working Group. Mega Region, which is SACOG and then 2 of the COGs from the Bay Area. And we meet a couple times a year to talk about mega region issues. So one of the issues we're going to talk about are our toll roads, actually. And SACOG at our last meeting took action to create a new toll road authority for I-80 in Yolo County. There's a stretch of road, and I didn't bring my notes with me, that they are moving forward to make a toll road. And so we discussed the item at length, and we also appointed 2 of our SACOG directors to that
And I
authority.
believe it's a toll lane, not.
Toll lane, well, it's a toll lane, yes, but yeah.
The whole road won't be tolled.
No, it's because it's the freeway. So it's a toll lane. Yes, you're correct. Also, just PCTPA will be meeting this week, but both Sean and myself met with staff last week to go over the specifics of the Highway 49 sidewalk gap project. And I've discussed that before to the council, but just to let you know, they're going to start construction. They're actually going to go out to bid soon, so construction probably won't be done until 2025. But they're ensuring that there are sidewalks all along 49 from 80 all the way out to past, I think it's past Dry Creek. So quite a distance, 4 miles. But in the city of Auburn, from 80 to like Palm, there will be sidewalk on actually both sides of 49. And I thought there was only going to be sidewalk on one side, but we were able to find some additional funds to finish that project. So that was good news. And I talked to our city manager about maybe being able to find some funds to do a little bit of beautification while the sidewalk construction is happening there, because it is just ugly. And right now people are walking in that ditch. It's a drainage ditch.
Yep.
But if there's an opportunity to at least have an irrigation system put in or something at the same time, that would just make sense. And then maybe one of our nonprofits or maybe Leadership Auburn or somebody will take a project, beautifying that segment there, especially on the side where Grocery Outlet is. That's the side that really needs help, right? So there's some opportunity there. But the good news is we're going to get sidewalk, curb and gutter on both sides.
Wow. Yeah, it's pretty hot too. So if we could get some trees, that would be great.
Yeah, well, that's why we want to get
Water.
some, if we can just get some, even just get some water and, that would be great at the same
Then we
time.
can fix it later.
Yep, exactly. So that's all I have to report.
Great. Oh, Councilwoman Mara.
I'm sorry, yeah, I neglected to say, with regard to, I'm the liaison for the schools. I did meet with the board president, Greg Holt, and it was a really good meeting, because I wanted to express to him how important our schools are. He already knows, but, and give him our support. I think we need to be real positive with our schools, and really, I think we need to reach out and tell people that, we're supportive of our schools, and they're making a big change, and I'm hoping we can help them along, and we had a very productive talk. So anyway, wanted to add that.
Okay. And we did invite the school district to, I think, our next meeting. So hopefully someone from the school board will be able to attend. If not, I'm hoping that we can have someone come in, because I think it's important for us to get an update on what's going on, because there's a lot of, they did just approve the new district boundaries in 5 days without much public input. So that was very disappointing. So we'll see how that goes as we move forward. And their interim superintendent resigned. So they're going to try to move forward with changing all the schools with no superintendent, which is very disappointing as well. All right. So for mine, the branding group is going to be meeting on February 5th to discuss logos. So that could be really exciting to see what they come up with. The airport master plan group has been meeting and discussing. They've taken an inventory of the airport and talked about kind of what the goal is for that plan moving forward. So they're getting a lot of public input and going out to the community out there. I'm meeting this week with the city select committee for LAFCO, because we have to select our new members, and I guess the mayors are the select committee that selects the members. We're an alternate for this year. And then I think actually that is it for me. All right. That's all we have on our agenda. If there's nothing else, then this meeting is adjourned. All right. So off. 7:16.